time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and I'm here today with the one, only, indomitable Jean Kuhn. Welcome, Jean. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, Jeanette. Thanks for having me today. Super excited to be here.
Awesome. Today, y'all, we're going to talk about how to truly make a difference in your thinking, in what you have been up to, and in what matters to you. As we always do here, that's what this is about, is how do we age, sage, and think differently at this stage, whatever stage you may be at. And a lot of, oopsie, sorry, I just lost all your bio that I was going to read. I was just going to introduce Jean and tell you the official scoop behind her, but then I'm going to get her to tell us all those secrets that we wouldn't guess from reading her website or her bio or any of those kinds of things. So if I can get this back, hang on just a second. I will do the formal introduction. But in the meantime, Jean, tell us where you're located physically. Where are you in the world right now?
I am located just west of Chicago in the western suburb of Naperville.
Awesome. All right. Well, right now I happen to be in Orlando. I am, as most of you know, polyhomorous, which means that I just travel around a lot and don't have a home and am basically a mobile or digital nomad, as they call it, or live a mobile lifestyle. So right now I'm in Orlando, where it's quite warm, and happily avoiding Canadian winters. All right, so let me tell you the official bio of Jean. She is a serial entrepreneur who became self-employed on April 29th, 1985 at 8:52 p.m. when the nurse put the first baby in her arm, that she immediately knew she wasn't going back to the job that she hated. I love that specificity. In 2002, Jean bought her first bankrupt franchise business and turned it into a profitable cash-generating machine in 12 months. In 2006, she brought a second bankrupt franchise business and created another cash-generating machine in less than 12 months again. In both cases, Jean added $100,000 to the bottom line for each company in the first year. She did this with no list, no help or training from the franchise, and no budget for marketing. She created low-cost and no-cost marketing strategies that she still teaches to her clients today. Jean has been a successful strategist since 2006, when she started helping all types of businesses grow and scale their business. And she's here today to share some low-cost, no-cost marketing strategies with you. So that's quite the accomplishment. And I love that the minute that you made your decision. Most of us weren't quite that specific about our transition into entrepreneurship.
I'm not going to lie, I had to look at the birth certificate, but
well, and that's good, as long as you know that what that pivotal, I call it a turning point moment was for you. Mine was quite a bit earlier than that. Mine was when I was 5, and I have kind of a longer story about it, but the short version is I really wanted the book Heidi. Grew up with lots of drama and trauma, and books were my refuge, and begged my mom a lot, incessantly. Finally, one day she turned around and yelled, "No, we can't afford it." And I remember that moment. I don't remember much from my childhood, but I remember that moment, and I remember the look on her face of shame and anger and frustration and sadness and despair, because she couldn't afford to buy her daughter a book that might have cost maybe $1. And I remember making a decision that at that moment, that I never wanted to see that look on another person's face, especially another woman, and that I was going to do whatever it was to make sure that didn't happen, and that people could live a yes life. That's when I decided to be an entrepreneur. And my first business was a garage sale that I had, because I wanted to get the money for the book, because kids, we don't complicate it. No money, get money. easy. And so that's kind of what I love about you. You still have that attitude. No money, get money. You were just telling me before we started about a client that in her first 8 days working with you made back her investment. No money, get money. Love it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how to increase your revenue fast, as well as how you got to this point. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you guys out there who are listening, ladies and gentlemen, are interested in making a transition to entrepreneurship or are growing your business, this podcast is for you, because Jean's got a lot of wisdom and expertise in how to do that and how to do it successfully, rather than all the cookie cutter solutions that other people are going to try and give you. So I'm glad we're going to have that conversation, because as we discussed, cookie cutters are for cookies, not for business models and businesses. So tell us a little bit about before that, tell us something people wouldn't guess about you. What's something that even your friends may not know about you?
Let's say that I'm not a natural redhead.
Okay,
Go
well,
figure. Right?
I'm not a natural blue hair either. Blue
Right.
head.
That I'm pretty gosh, I'm such an open book that it's not like it is a little difficult for me to find something that people don't know about me, but that I get really excited. Well, I get really excited when, like yesterday, why I was just telling you this story, when somebody tells me that something I've done has helped them, not number one, change their life, change their income, change their social economic status,
Mhm.
right? That excites the hell out of me, because I want every woman out there, and men too, right? But I primarily work with women. I want every woman business owner out there to make as much money as possible. And I know that only it's a government statistic that only 12% of female-led businesses ever hit six figures. And
Mm.
that is not enough. That
Oh,
is not
say that statistic again, because I want people to hear that.
only only 12% of female-led businesses ever hit six figures. They only ever not only 12% of women business owners ever earn $100,000. And that is almost criminal to me. And listen, I am not somebody who believes that women are paid less than men. Right? That is in the marketplace, the corporate world. You go fight that out. That is not my fight. My fight is for small business owners to make enough money to support themselves in their small business so that they can live where they want, they can do what they want, they can create more time freedom for themselves, they can create an income that will sustain them and change the life of not just them, but of their family. Because
Mhm.
when you change the life of your family, right, you start to change the people around your family, right? And I do believe that it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Yeah.
yeah, my fight is not the corporate women don't make enough money. I don't care if that happens or not. I care about whether or not small business women make enough money.
Yes. All right. Amen. Hallelujah. And yes. And so tell me a little bit about why you're so passionate about this. What's your purpose or your why?
When I started, back in 1985, my why was that I realized once I put that baby in my arms, I did not want to, what was I going to do with him, right? If I went back to work, what was I going to do with him? I was going to have to put him in daycare. And at that time, remember, nanny cams were just coming out, right? And you're reading all of these articles, or at least I was reading every article. It seems like they popped up in front of me because I was worried about it, of somebody abusing a child. And that was not for me. And I didn't want to have babies if I couldn't raise them. I went on to later think, God, my life would be so much easier if I just put these kids in daycare, right? And could work my business. But I made it work around them. So that was my why to start with. But later on, as I became an entrepreneur, my why became the fact that I wasn't earning enough money.
Mm.
I wasn't being able to do what I wanted to do. We looked at the little money that I made, we looked at that as a little extra, right? Maybe we could buy new school clothes or something like that, but I wasn't making the kind of money that I always anticipated I would make.
Mm.
And that so when I did start, right, and I didn't start till 53. So somewhere between 26 when I started and 53, I had to learn about business, what that meant. I had to run my businesses, I had to earn money, and I had to figure out how to get my income up over $100,000 a year. And there's a whole story to that too, but to make me feel like the success that or to earn the amount of money that made me feel like a success, right?
Right. Okay.
So
Well, and you said I've been an entrepreneur for 39 years, but it only took me 28 to find the success I was looking for.
yeah,
I think that's actually a really important point that you've made is it's not about overnight. It is about you have to learn how to be a business person. Well, cracks me up and annoys me, depends on the day, that people think they can hang up a shingle and that's it. They don't have to learn how to be a professional, a business person. They would never go and try and be a doctor or a lawyer without going to school for it, but yeah. So
but you know what? I'm glad you said that because doctors and lawyers struggle too. You want to know why? Because they also believe all you have to do is hang a shingle and people
exactly,
will come. And that is not true.
that's not true.
If you're going to become an entrepreneur, you better tell people, and you do that through your marketing.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And they don't realize that they're in business, even though they are professionals, because they have to sell their services. Um,
Exactly.
doctors a little less so because there's not enough of them. Lawyers
Exactly.
more than enough. But anyways, so let's talk about your kind of journey. What were some of the biggest struggles that you dealt with in that journey to success? What were some of the biggest kind of downfalls or pitfalls that you went
Uh,
through?
Number one, being a mom,
Mm,
right? It literally took all of my time, right?
yeah.
I ended up having over the next 7 years, I had two more babies. So being a mom and dealing with that was I always gave it top priority. So I did put my business behind my kids. Which you know what I love today is you don't see young business owners doing that. They're like the kids are right there with them.
Yeah.
And I could not unhinge my brain enough to say I could do that. It was for me, I was either focused on one or the other.
Mm,
So that really did hurt a little bit. But I will also say that maybe there was a little fear there.
mm,
There's fear there about what would happen. And I hear this all the time. And now I know how how irrational it is. But what if I become a success and then what happens to my kids?
mhm,
Right? I don't want to, right? I don't want to put them in daycare. I don't want to hire a babysitter. I want to be there with them. So even though I was working the entire time I was with them, so
mhm,
trying to fit that in. So that would be, that would be some of the pitfalls that I had. And then how about this? At 53, I woke up on December 12th, 2012. And December 22nd, 2012. And that was my youngest son's 21st birthday.
mm,
And it felt for a moment like a big failure because he's 21 and I still hadn't created what I wanted. And
mm,
I'm like, and I actually remember thinking my job as a mom is over,
mhm.
right? I mean, I'm proclaiming my job as a mom
Yep,
is over, right?
yep,
And I'm going to step in. I took about 2 weeks to think about, do I really want to start over?
mhm,
And what that meant is, do I really want to invest as much time as it's going to take? Because at that point, I still had not hit six figures,
mhm,
right? Do I want to, do I want to put in the time it's going to take at 53 to hit six figures?
mhm,
Took a couple weeks to think about that because I have a pretty nice, sweet, cushy life,
mhm.
right? My husband has been a very good caretaker for our family. And I decided that, yes, I did want to out earn him. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I really hear that. And that also is, the a period I would imagine of, okay, I'm not a mom now. Who am I? Did you go through that
Oh,
or
yeah,
was it just no? It was not
I
a
knew you know what, I used 2013. I just called it the year of Gene Kuhn 2.0,
okay.
right? This was me reinventing myself, but I didn't struggle with who I was.
Mm,
I struggled more to become who I wanted to be.
got it.
I spent the time and invested that time in that.
And what was that? Well, who did you want to become?
I wanted to become a leader which I've kind of always been seen as a leader, especially in my businesses, but I really wanted to feel it, right? I wanted to embrace that. I also wanted to become somebody who women would look up to as a mentor and
Mhm.
who's been there and had all of the, I've done so many different jobs, right? Businesses, direct sales, home party plan, um, uh, every time I'd learn something, I'd teach it and then figure out how I could monetize it,
Yeah.
right? So, and then buying the chocolate stores was kind of the last piece I needed to learn about being behind a register and service-based businesses.
Mm.
And so when I haven't had somebody come to me yet that I can't relate to what they're doing to one of the businesses that I had started over the course of 85 to 2012.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and let's tell us the story about the chocolate stores that you bought, because you can't say chocolate on the show and not follow that up with. So tell us about that. How did that come about?
It came about because we had gone through actually we had built our dream home in 1990s. Well, no, that's going back. Sorry, I've got my dates wrong. So we built in 80 2000 and yeah, in 19 I'm sorry, let me get my story straight here, right? I don't ever tell the story like that. But so we had built our dream home in 1997, six and moved in 97. And in 2002, 2001, remember 9/11 and the market crashed hard after 9/11. And we lost financially pretty much everything,
Mhm.
right? And it was like, oh crap, now we're in our dream home. I've got kids who are just into high school. And what are we going to do? I owned a dance studio at the time, right? So there's, like I said, there's a lot of things I've done over the course of these years. And a friend of mine told me about a chocolate store. She had a franchise and she told me that there was one for sale. And I went down and I looked at it and I knew immediately what was wrong. They didn't have anything in there to sell, and what they did have looked like crap.
Mm.
So I invested in that store for pennies on the dollar and decided that I was going to turn it around. Now, I'd never worked retail, and all the things I did, I never worked retail, even as a kid. And 2 weeks in, I am sitting on an upside down milk crate in the kitchen, crying my eyes out, like ugly crying, because I'm like, and I'm really, this is what I'm saying to myself. Why the hell do you think you are qualified to run a retail store? You've never worked retail. You don't know how to cook. I mean, like
Yeah.
chocolate and stuff like that, make stuff. You have 3 kids at home, right? What possess your kids are never going to go to college. You're going to lose everything. You're going to lose our dream home that we just built. You big dumbass, right? I mean, literally, I am beating myself up, and the snot is literally running, and my eyes are so red, so puffy, I couldn't open them. And I'm in the kitchen, and I didn't have to worry about it because nobody was walking in the front door of that chocolate store after 2 weeks after I bought it.
Mm.
And after I was done with that pity party, I realized I had a plan when I bought it, right? I
Yeah.
had a plan. I just needed to get up off my milk crate
Yes.
and go to work,
Yeah.
right? And I have since created a podcast called Milk Crate Moments because I know I'm not the only entrepreneur out there who's had a anxiety riddled crying fit about their business and
Mhm.
had to make a decision. Am I quitting? That was not an option. I signed a 10-year lease, right? That was not going to be an option that I could quit because they were still going to be on the hook personally for that and didn't have the money to start with. So I bought the business and I got off the milk crate and went to work. And let's say about 3 or 4 years in, I read the book E-Myth,
Mhm.
Revisited. And listen, I've only read the first 9 chapters, but those 9 chapters changed my life.
Yes. Yeah.
And I hired a manager immediately. I didn't pay myself those first 4 years, right?
Yeah.
It was all about reinvesting into the business. So I had the money to pay a manager, brought the manager in, and I started working on building the business,
Mm.
right? I wanted to build more than $100,000. And
Mm.
then for those 4 years later, I also bought my second bankrupt franchise,
Mhm.
right? And while the manager was running the first one, I was over creating the same thing in the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
I I love that story, and yes, we've had our milk crate moments. And you know what I want people to hear is it doesn't matter how long you've been at something, it doesn't matter what successes you've had, they still come back around and bite you in the butt. I had one last May, a real, I call it the great shame shitstorm of 2023. And I actually I think it was the first time I actually experienced shame. I've done a lot of things and had a lot of life, but I was really blindsided by this whole wave of imposter complex. I've been doing what I've been doing for 40 years. I have more than enough proof that I'm really good at it and stuff, but I still went through this whole shame thing of I'm a fraud, I'm lot, not successful, da 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 da. It doesn't matter when, where those things still come up. The good news is this one lasted like 3 days max, 2.5 days, because I called in support and I, wiped off my snotty face and started focusing on what does work and what do I need to do and so forth, rather than the 3 months or 3 years it would have taken me out in the past. But
We talk about that for just a minute
yeah.
because what you just said is I think something that most people who've had a corporate career and then they want to go into being an entrepreneur or business owner, they don't get that.
Mhm.
They don't understand that sometimes you have those moments and an entrepreneur, that's how I know you're an entrepreneur, right? You said it took you 3 days to get over it. Some people never get over it. They're like, this didn't work. Let's move on.
Yep.
And that's how you never become. My mom was like that as an entrepreneur. She was always moving from one thing to the other and never knew how to get that's I probably looked at her a lot too. She never got the pieces under her, the marketing and things like that to actually build a business because when it didn't work, she was on to something else,
Yes. Yeah.
never had the success that she wanted. So I love that you said it was only 3 days, right? Because that's how a true entrepreneur doesn't give up. It's in your DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't do it without support, right? The key
Exactly.
there is, you called in support and hired a manager. You did what you needed to do in order to leverage yourself so you could work on your business, which is a real major distinction rather than in it so much. Because that's what is required if you want to grow and make the business go beyond you. I've been in business for 40 years as well, just like you, and making the leap from solopreneur to business owner is a really challenging leap, and it's a significant difference. One is,
Yes.
one is you doing the thing, the other is you ensuring the thing gets done. And I think that that's a big transition and leap that you've made. So what was that leap moment for you? How did you decide to make that leap, to start really making the business and to let it grow, like to I call it expanded your context, the container got
Yeah.
bigger. How did you do that?
Well, I will tell you when I said the book E-Myth,
Yep.
listen, I don't remember a lot about that book, but there's one paragraph in there that said, if you own a business and you run that business, you don't have a business, you have a job. And it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
I could see I was becoming a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I that was not going to serve me. So I just needed to, that was really that pivotal moment that you read something or you hear something or somebody supports you and says something and all of a sudden you're like boom, shifted.
Yeah.
That's an entrepreneur.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that distinction. All right, well, let's talk about some of the strategies that you used to turn those businesses around. What were some of
Sure.
the things that you did that were different, that created different results than the previous franchise owner did?
Well, one of the things is I practice a lot of keep your enemies close and your friends, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So about 2 years after I bought that first franchise, across the street from me at the store and out the window, I could see another chocolate store that just opened up. And when you walked into the store, it looked identical to mine. Like fudge tables in the same place. They're doing caramel apples like we are, ice cream, and the candy cases full of chocolate, right? Identical. And I'm like, huh. okay, how am I going to deal with this?
Mhm.
Right? My goal was to be on them, checking out what they're doing, how many people are in their store. And we did for the first 4 months, we did kind of lose some business as people started checking that store out.
Mhm.
But there was one way I knew that we could compete, that they wouldn't compete with us, and that was on customer service. So
Mhm.
we had to up our level of customer service, and we always provided great customer service. But what we started doing was if they put a coupon out, we now accepted all candy coupons. Right? So the funny thing, what they have happened is they put their franchisee newsletter, their franchise system used to put their newsletter for their franchisees at the bottom of their website. So the franchisee could just click on that and read the newsletter. Well, guess who else could read the newsletter? Anybody who visited your website, right?
Mhm.
So my husband's looking at it one day and he says, huh, Kilwins is running a special that is buy a half a pound of fudge and they will send a half a pound of fudge to soldiers overseas. And I'm like, I can beat that. And within 12 hours, I had a big sign in our front window. It looked like a flag. And in the middle of the flag, it said, fudge for soldiers, buy a pound, we'll donate a pound, right? Number one, upped our fudge sales to start with. And
Mhm.
second of all, I knew people would also buy that pound and they would donate it as well,
Mhm.
right? Because we asked, do you want to donate that to that? We sent probably about, I think it was about 6,000 pounds, 7,000 pounds over the course of the few years that I had left in that franchise when I started it, overseas to Iraq. And I would always put a little label on the containers, and I would ask them to just send me, let me know that how they liked it. And I put my email address on there, and they responded like nobody's business. I
Mhm.
had one company send me two American flags, one for each store, that they flew over Afghanistan in a Chinook helicopter, and there was a picture of the helicopter with the flag flying out the door of the helicopter, and sent me two American flags, which I am a patriot and I love our country and I love our military. One woman, I started that you're going to make me cry now, because I started that to compete with my competition,
Mhm.
right? And they couldn't even run their own campaign because I beat them to it, right?
Right.
Which also won me a couple awards for that promotion. But one woman sent me a personal email and she said, I'm sitting here, it's Christmas time, I'm in my pajamas from home, and a little bit of fudge makes me feel the closest to home that I have felt since I got here. And it just, letters like that would literally bring tears to my eyes. And I was a little ashamed of myself for doing it for the reason that I did it,
Mhm.
instead of that it would change people's lives. And
Mhm.
I'm always very aware of those decisions I make, that I
Yeah.
do for one reason, but the real reason pops up and hits me in the face,
Mhm.
and brings the real reason why I was supposed to do it, because I can tell you they would have never done it the way I did it. I'm always above and beyond what other people will do. So just customer service, things like that. How could we had created a policy where we never said no. You came in, you asked for anything you want to ask us, and the answer is always going to be yes. I was the only one who was allowed to say no if I couldn't figure it out. I had
Right.
a person walk in and said, I'd like to have a 3 pound fudge mountain. Do you do that? I'm like, of course we do. I didn't know how to make a fudge mountain. I made a bunch of bad fudge mountains, but I created one. And what I figured out is if you just drizzle a little white chocolate over it, it looks like a mountain. And I put a little couple plastic Christmas trees on there, and it looked like a mountain. So how can you say yes to everything and say no to as little as possible? That helped us immensely.
Okay, there's a bunch in there that I want to unpack. So first of all, thank you for the difference that you make in many ways, not the least of which was touching people's hearts overseas, um, and bringing them that little bit of comfort and home. And I appreciate you talking about the the kind of the dichotomy that you were feeling around being competitive, because as women we're taught to be nice, And there are, I know, many people who listen to this who may judge you for scooping that idea and using it as your own or whatever. What I want to really reinforce here is A, men do that all the time. And B, using an idea to support yourself and further yourself is a good thing. If you want to give credit, you give credit to where it's due, and then also be understanding. And if people do that to you as well, it is part and parcel of how we grow, is to find ideas in other places. There's very little that's new in the world right now. And I love that it became the something more as well, because it was very successful as it was, helped you generate revenue, helped you be competitive against a competitor who was exactly what
Foreigner.
you were
I'm
doing.
gonna say a foreigner who came into my territory.
Yeah.
That's how I look at that.
And it helped you to also make a difference. So one of the things about that is, a lot of times I think a lot of people, and especially a lot of women, have issues with, and I don't want to say this, I'm going to say, doing what it takes to make money. Now, I don't mean by that being unethical and immoral,
Yeah.
or kind of coming from that, what I'm going to call the masculine, not necessarily men, but the masculine push, drive hard, do what it takes, doesn't matter, kind of mentality. But women will often let nice sacrifice the doing what it takes and being approved of and being liked, which is one of the reasons why we don't make money. And so, how did you deal with that for yourself? Because you're a strong, independent woman, and I'm, willing to bet you were raised to be nice and so on. How did you overcome that so that you could still make a difference and be a wonderful, loving person, but not be held back by approval?
Can I just say that I had to go to therapy in my 40s to get over the approval piece that I needed, right? So let's talk about that. Women have that. Some women have that. And what I started is I started speaking to my mom um, in a way that I didn't like who I was when I would talk to her, right? So
Mhm.
my mom was a very strong woman, and and then so we were raised, and I have three sisters, we were all raised to be very strong women. But as I got older and started to find my voice,
Mhm.
i didn't I didn't really like her. And meaning of course I loved her, she's my mother, but I did not like her.
Mhm.
And I had to figure out how to be me and still be nice, because I had to still be nice. I had to still be loving, and I had to figure out how to talk to my mother. And I actually went to therapy to get over that. So I was able to let that go
Mhm.
of how I spoke to her. I just set boundaries, and I became who I just have been working. I think if you don't work on yourself, on who you want to be, right, you end up at death's door the same person you were at 20. I
Mhm.
didn't want to be that person at 20 because I didn't really like her at 20, right? She was okay,
Yeah.
right? But I sure as hell like who I am now, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's how, right? I really did have to overcome that.
Yeah. And it's never too late to do that work. It's never ever too late to decide that I want to learn, get better at setting boundaries, or I want to be a better leader, or I want to get over my approval shit, or I want to, whatever it may be. Never ever too late. That line about you can't teach an old dog new tricks is BS. And
Exactly.
so I acknowledge and appreciate and applaud you for doing the work that you needed to do to get that obstacle out of the way. Because yes, it was with your mother, but it also would have impacted and colored every other area of your life, including your business.
Yeah. And that's what Gene Kuhn 2.0 was all about, becoming the woman I wanted to be, right?
That,
And I didn't get to start working on her till 53.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit more. What did you really shift the most? What did you focus on shifting the most? So yes, approval, dealing with your mother, but in terms of becoming a business leader, owner leader, what were some of the things you really needed to learn?
I really needed to, I didn't know what I didn't know. So, but what I did know is that when my kids were babies, well, I wasn't reading romance novels. I was reading every marketing book out there because I find marketing fun. I find it fascinating. I find it the more weird you can be in your marketing, meaning weird by meaning you don't do everything your competition is doing because everybody else, their competition is doing that.
Yes.
Do something different. So I was able, it's like when I stepped into that first chocolate store and I knew immediately, all I had to do was open the door and I knew immediately how to fix it, right? I'd never, ever worked retail. How the hell did I know how to fix that? But I knew exactly what didn't look good and what needed to be promoted. And I could see what they were and were not doing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's making some little shifts there, making some changes there. But what I knew is that I did know that if you build it, they will come is a oxymoron, right? If you build it, you need to tell people you built it. You need to be proud of it. You need to tell them the problem you solve that they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if they understand that, that's exactly what marketing is. Marketing is helping more people by solving the problem that they have with your product or service.
Right. Love it.
And it's no harder than that. And it's can be super fun when you let it. And I realized that at 53, part of the woman I became doesn't want to work as hard anymore. She just wants to have fun. And the more fun I made it for, I don't do it if it's not fun. If I didn't think your podcast today would be fun, Jeanette, I
Yep.
would not be there,
Right.
right? So I only do things that make me have a good time while I'm doing it, and which is pretty much everything around business. I love everything around business.
I love, love, love that. And you know, it's a really good incentive to do that or to have that commitment that if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. Now, that
Exactly.
said, not everybody loves everything around business. I hate bookkeeping. I can't stand a lot of
Oh, okay.
the
Me too.
technology. So I don't do that stuff because it's not fun. So I delegate that. But
Exactly.
yes, but really, I agree with you. I've loved helping entrepreneurs for 40 years. I often say I'm still stupidly in love with what I do, and love the way people light up and being creative and all of the aspects of it. So really appreciate your definition. Solving marketing is solving a problem that people have with your product or service,
Mhm.
and I totally agree. They will not come if you build it. It doesn't, don't build a website and expect people are going to see it. Don't, hang out your shingle and expect people are now going to beat down, your door. You have to tell them that you're there, and you have to tell them repeatedly a lot and fairly loudly to get heard sometimes and differently, like you said. So what is the and oh, I want to point out that this distinction is you started with no experience, but with a trust in your core competence.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for people to hear. If you don't have experience, you can get experience, but um, you have skills that you can transfer. You have core competency that you can relax into the arms of. That will carry you. You don't necessarily have to have experience. If you do, great. But if not, go get it. Go get some experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, competence will carry us a long ways, and competence gets created by studying, preparing, doing the work, reading the books, that kind of thing helps us feel more confident. So tell us, what were some of the marketing ideas that really worked for you? Because you mentioned, low cost, no cost ideas. And a lot of times people start out with no budget. So what are some
Okay.
things that they can do to be seen and heard?
I've got a couple more I'll share with you. The second one would be email marketing, right? Right when I started that, and I started that store in 2000, I bought it in 2001.
Mhm.
Probably around 2002, 2003, I'm starting to hear commercials for Constant Contact, right? And I'm like, that sounds fun. That was my first thought. That sounds fun. So I checked it out and I ended up getting a Constant Contact account and I started writing a store newsletter. Like, does anybody care about a store's newsletter? Because let me ask you, you have Kohl's, you have Best Buy, you get emails from them. Does anybody really care unless you're looking for something from Kohl's or Best Buy? No,
Yeah.
right? You don't usually even open them if you're not looking for that. But I started writing it differently. And I didn't do it on purpose. It was I kind of also feel I've been divinely guided as through my whole journey here. But I figured out the 5 things that you need in an email newsletter to get people to interact and respond and buy from you. And I'm going
Mhm.
to share those. That's
Okay.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so number one is you have to have a great subject line,
Hmm.
right? So I'm gonna tell you a quick story here. So last year, 2 years ago, I was getting ready to unsubscribe from a bunch of stuff I had subscribed to, right? Because your emails just clogged. And so there was a woman that I had gotten a freebie for or something, and I was unsubscribing from her because I didn't open any of her stuff. So her name was Kim. I won't say her last name because I'll tell you what. But Kim, I pull up all of the emails so I can delete them all at one time, right? And the first email that pops up there, the subject line says, well, slap my ass and call me Sally. And I'm like, that is the best subject line I have ever read in my entire life. What is that? I click on that to open, and Miss Kim is promoting an Instagram course that she does, and it ended yesterday. And I'm like, damn. And I know Kim, right? I don't know her, but we were in the same coach. We use the same coach at different levels. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'd like to join your Instagram course. I saw it ended yesterday. Is there a shot I can still get in? Okay, that boom. I I don't hear from her for 3, 4, 5 days, right? By the time she responds, yes, of course you can. I've already moved on, right? I would have bought it that day if she just sent me a link, right? I would have bought it. But I thought I probably couldn't get in. I didn't think anything else of it. I did not unsubscribe from her because of that subject line.
Hmm.
And about, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later, I just ignored her email, right? When she said I could, I was no longer interested. Not intention, not mean, like I just moved on. I just had
Yep.
other things I was working on.
Yep. Yep.
And um, about 2 weeks later, we're Facebook friends, right? Even though I'd never met her, never talked to her. And I see this Facebook post from her that says, what do you do when you have somebody who writes you a letter telling you that they're unsubscribing from your list, right? And then tells you they want to join your program. So when you send them something that says they can, that bitch never answered me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I think she's talking about me,
Mhm.
right? I'm that bitch. So I let it go. Like I'm not responding, right? There's no reason to. I'm not a confrontational, like you did this, right? I don't do that. I just let it go. So let's fast forward to last year. And last year, Kim is now up at the same level I'm at. And we have a video chat that we do with our whole group. And so we're all chatting in there. My whole thing is I'm always try to be funny, right? And Kim reaches out to me and she's like, hey, Jean, let's talk. You are always so effing funny. And I'm like, okay, we can talk. And we get on the phone, we work out a collaboration,
Mhm.
right? We're gonna do some stuff together. And she's like, okay, thanks so much. I'll talk to you later. I'm like, wait a minute. I think we need to have an uncomfortable conversation. And I told her what it was. I said, Kim, you did not understand when I wrote that. And I said, I was just getting ready to unsubscribe, but I wanted you to know that your email subject line is what pulled me back in. And apparently my comedy does not come through my writing as well as I think it does. And she laughed, I laughed. She's been a sponsor at my events. She's going to be sponsoring my 2 events this year. Everything, but the point is subject lines are important. And if
Yeah.
you want to get your emails open, give them a damn good subject line,
Yes.
right?
All right.
Number two, something personal,
Hmm.
right? Do you see Best Buy or Kohl's or J.C. Penney's putting anything personal in their emails out to the public? No, they don't. So it's not like all full about me. It's really like 2 sentences, 3 sentences of what's going on in your life, right?
Hmm.
Because we as small business owners, people see us differently than obviously corporations. So why do we have to act like we're not a real person? Right.
Hmm.
So when I had that store, my daughter started working there at 8 years old, at 12 years old.
Hmm.
Right. So people knew her in the store. I would always start something about an employee. I would introduce all the employees. This is where you get to connect with people. Right. And there's a lot of different ways to connect with people. You can connect with them obviously through something personal, but maybe are you a dog lover or a cat lover? You show me a picture of a puppy, which I already showed you a picture of a puppy today, and you and I are going to be best friends forever. You show me if you're a cat person, how do you connect with people? You get rid of the cat and you get a puppy so that we can connect again, right? So how can you, over fine wine, over sporting events, over mom groups, right? There's a million different ways that you can connect with people. If
Yeah.
you want to connect with your readers of your newsletters, put something, 2 or 3 sentences tops, about something personal in your life,
Yeah.
right? Let them get a little sneak peek. Mine were always of my dogs. People didn't even know I had kids because I post so many pictures of my dogs on Facebook, right? So
Okay.
that's a way to connect.
Yes.
Number 3 is content, right? Your content has to be relevant to what they want. Now, when you go to Best Buy, all you're going to see is content about what's on sale, right? Or what in their website, what's on their website. When you go to a small business owner's website, right, your content should be of value to them and answer the problem that they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I'm looking for a computer, Best Buy answers that. But
Yeah.
if I'm looking for right now, I'm looking for a new CPA, right? So I'm asking who are you using, right? So I can connect also there, but also I might say I'm looking for a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to figure out that content. Like, I'm going to talk about marketing, I'm going to talk about sales, I'm going to talk about business growth, and I'm going to talk about speaking, because these are some of the ways that I grow my business. I'm going to share those with you. Number 4 is something extra. What else in that newsletter? What else could I put in there, right? I've given them content. And I did it by telling them what was going on in town. We had a little downtown area, not really a square, but a downtown area. What's going on downtown that you want to know, right? It's not just about my store. It's about that the place next door, it's restaurant week, and if go in and try this, and this, right?
Right. Yeah.
So number 5 is a call to action, right? What's your call to action there for people? You've got to have a great call to action if you want them to take you up on it, right? So those are just some, right? Email marketing is just another one of the very low cost, no cost strategies. You buy it one time for the month and you get to send as many emails as you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why to me it's low cost.
Okay, I love that. And there's people who would probably say, email marketing is we're so inundated with it, it's over, it's done. It doesn't work anymore, that
Oh,
kind of thing. What
oh,
would
well,
you say?
they don't know what they're talking about, because it does still work.
Mhm.
And the reason it works is, for some people, is because you're putting a really good subject line out there. I sent an email about, it was several years ago, out on a Sunday, snowy Sunday afternoon, and it was my best open rate ever. It was like a 72% open rate, right? And the subject line was, "My husband left me."
Mm.
And now I know what they were thinking. Holy crap, what took him so long? But they opened it to find out why my husband left me.
Right.
And I just told a quick little story about my son and my husband went to see a superhero movie, which I'm not into. So I decided to stay home and write a letter to my list, right? So, but 72% open rate. And one of my marketing buddies, who I hadn't heard from in a couple of years pre-pandemic, just wrote back and said, "Best subject line ever,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's how you want to get people to open your emails. Think Huffington Post.
Yeah.
They have really good titles on their articles,
Mm.
and usually no payoff inside. You've got to have the payoff inside too.
Yes, I love that. Jean, I could talk to you about marketing all day, all night, all forever. And you mentioned you were going to give us two more. So what's the
Oh,
second one, really quickly? Because
yeah.
you know,
I don't have time for more stories. So the second one is sampling, right? It was a chocolate store. Figure out how you can sample your clients, right? I do it through speaking. I do it through podcasting. I do it through holding my own events. How can you sample your people,
right.
right? And then there was no cost to that. No cost to that. And then the last one is marketing. What can you do differently in your marketing than everybody else?
Mhm.
Um, we're a chocolate store. So what does a chocolate store do, right? In October, I held Apple Fest,
Mm.
right? Because we were really big for caramel apples.
Mhm.
So, and that was in October, it was our biggest seller of the month, which made it our biggest our biggest month of the year. So
Mm.
how can you market differently? And I created Apple Bucks, which I took the Kohl's Bucks, Kohl's Cash idea, and I created Apple Bucks and ran it similar to that in my store. And then in November, when they could redeem their Apple Bucks, I had the best November, which is normally the second worst month of the year from us was November.
Oh,
So, but I
wow.
best November ever because of my Apple Bucks.
Yeah.
They came back, they redeemed them to the tune of about an extra $9,000 in sales for that month, which is huge when you consider it was our second lowest month. It kind of
Right.
brought us up to where we could be competitive with the summer months and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
So
cool.
you just
I,
have to think about that differently.
yeah. And think about how to go where they're not. So where are they? And then where are they not? And that's a place to go. So I love all of this information. Tell us how you work with people.
When I work with people, I do a couple different things. Number one, the first 30 days is about changing their mindset because they've already got a mindset around their business and I want them to change that. So, and I know that if I can change their mindset, I can change their life and I can change their business. So that's the first 30 days. And it's so funny because my clients tend to do it over and over and over. We meet every single Monday morning. I have been doing that for 2 straight years. Every Monday morning we work on it's an hour call. The second thing is I meet people two different ways, privately and in a group. When they work with me privately, I am literally focused on their business. I become their ideal client in my head so that I know exactly what their ideal client wants. Please don't ask me how I do that. I don't know. It is a gift because I literally can put myself into their ideal client spot and I know the problems that they have.
Right.
So, and once I know the problems they have, I can tell them how to solve that problem and how to market it differently. And let's do something that your competition is not doing.
Exactly. Yep. That's a lot of what I work on with my clients as well. I call it mastering the inner and outer game of business because you cannot, the 4 inches between our ears is the biggest impediment to your business.
Okay.
So tell us, so you do coaching, you do programs,
I
you
do.
mentioned events. Do you have an event coming up?
I do have an event coming up May 22, 23, 24. It's called Speak to Grow Your Business. It's not, so it's what you need to be saying when you're out there speaking for free and what you need to say so that they can hear you because it's not what you say, it's what they hear. So are
Right.
you speaking to what they can hear?
Mm-hmm.
And it's different than what people think it is. So it's
Right.
really teaching people how to speak to grow their business and how to use speaking to that's exactly how I went when I started my coaching business in
Mm-hmm.
2006. Um, when I actually started working with a coach, right? I still have a coach. When I
Mm-hmm.
hired a coach, I went from $333 a month to six figures in 18 months.
Yeah. I That's great stat, and I love that. And I don't trust a coach who doesn't have a coach because
I, I
you're.
think you're out of integrity if you don't.
I do too. If you actually think it's worthwhile for people, why are you not doing it yourself? So yeah, great advice. And where can they find you? So what's your website, and where is the
Uh,
best place to reach out to you?
But they can reach out to me through the website. There's a little thing on there that will give them a free call if they schedule a free call with me. What I will do for them is I'll give them the 5 no-cost marketing strategies. Actually, I think you have a link for that. And if you get the 5 no-cost marketing strategies, even through the link here that Jeanette has, I also will give you a call that will help you create your own custom marketing strategy to grow your business.
Hey,
So
awesome. That's a very valuable offer. And so please take her up on it. The link is going to be in the show notes and or in the notes underneath on our YouTube channel. So please do take advantage of that and do follow through on the call. A lot of people won't because they think it's just going to be a big pitch. But as you can tell, Jean is really committed to giving you value and making sure that you have some tangible takeaways. So by all means, follow up on that with her, and so they can go and get this five the five marketing. What is it called again? Hang
five
on.
no five no cost, low cost marketing strategies that will make your business more appealing. And they
That,
can get that also from you, or they can get that on the website at JeanKuhn.com.
All right, love it. All right, so go ahead. I'm signing up for it right now as we speak. And and thank you so much, Jean, for being here. I love your passion. I love the use of stories to illustrate points. That's a great speaking technique. It makes things far more interesting and memorable and sticky. So great modeling of what you teach. And also really love the commitment to having real conversations about, like you said, milk crate moments or what it's really like in the trenches. And I always appreciate the people who are willing to be real, show up with no BS, and support people in knowing that even though it's hard at times, when we're just committed and stay the course, things can work. Committed, stay the course, get the right information and apply it, things can work. that those are two pieces. Perseverance alone doesn't actually get you very far, but without it, you don't get anywhere at all. So thank you for doing that and modeling that in your life, in the way of being. What's one last thing you'd like to leave everyone with?
Well, I knew at 26 that my purpose in life was to help small business owners make more money. I got that divine download when I was in a Zig Ziglar meeting in Chicago. He came and did a whole day by himself. So I'm going to leave you with a Zig Ziglar quote, right? Mm-hmm. And I have embraced this for the last 39 years of my life, right? Is you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. Zig Ziglar.
Awesome. Now, on that note, everybody, please reach out to get support from people like Jean, from me, to help you decide and determine and clarify how you want to help people get what they want. So thank you so much for being here, Jean. Have a wonderful and bodacious week, my friends. And I look forward to seeing you sometime soon at an event, in a call, where we can exchange milk cart stories. All right. Thank you, Jean.
Moments.
Here. That's it. All right. Thanks for being here. And please do check out Jean's podcast. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.